Jennifer.
All right. All right, ladies, as you pop in here, go ahead and feel free to have your cameras on. And Angelica, go ahead and start the live stream. And then, ladies, the way that it's going to work today is we're going to introduce our guest. And then after that, we will go ahead and she's going to do a presentation for us. And then after the presentation, she'll be able to open it for Q&A. So today, I'm so excited. I was sharing with our guest, Tami. And Tami, forgive me, how do you say your last name? Simms? Is that
Simms? Yep, it's easy.
Okay, perfect. Well, Tami is the lead trainer for the Institute for Luxury Homes Marketing and the co-host of the Estate of Mind podcast. And Tami and I were actually just chatting right before we jumped on here about just the framework that we all have around luxury and how often so many of us discount ourselves from being luxury agents. And we don't really think about luxury as an experience. We think about luxury as a price point. And I'm just so excited to have Tami here today because I think she's going to challenge all of our thought processes around luxury. And she's really going to help us to really think about how we can approach our business to build raving fans and generate more referral business. So on that note, Tami, thank you so much for being here. And the stage is all yours.
It is my pleasure. I am so pleased to be here. I'm going to get my screen shared, and we are going to jump right in. I love your comments about how you perceive luxury, and I think that is true for a lot of people. So I really want to focus on the idea that luxury is not just about a price point. It's about a level of service. And so today in this session, we're going to explore some ways to provide extraordinary service that's benchmarked by the finest hotels and the purveyors of luxury goods, but in a real estate context. So this approach, as you said, Randy, builds raving fans, and it generates referral business in a way that traditional real estate strategies can often overlook. So we're hoping that this is going to be eye-opening and inspiring to you, and that it will really help you take your business to the next level in whatever price point you are focusing on. So first, by way of introduction, you heard that I'm the Institute's lead trainer, and I've been with the Institute for more than 18 years now. So I've certainly seen things shift, market conditions, that sort of thing. And I love the opportunity to be able to share with our members, both through the podcast, as you mentioned, and ongoing content that really helps us stay on top of current market trends and really get inspired to provide better service. I think the most important thing to know about me, though, is that I am a full-time, living, breathing real estate professional like all of you. So I have a great appreciation for the time that you're taking to be with us today. So let's jump right in. I really believe that you can build your business in the upper tier and grow your client base by focusing on providing an extraordinary level of service to today's affluent customers. And again, this translates to any price point, any part of your business, but I want you to think about it in the context of pushing yourself to perhaps move into a higher price point and not be intimidated by that audience there. So concierge service, what exactly is it, right? We hear the phrase a lot, but I really want to talk about what concierge service really is. And so when you think of the word concierge, you think of the go-to person, right? Somebody who can get you whatever you want whenever you need it. And in the real estate industry, since maybe the late 90s, a lot of companies have taken to using that term because they provide help with finding a handyman, moving services, interior designers. But true concierge service really goes well beyond those basic real estate related needs. And so I'm going to set the stage for that. So as real estate professionals, especially in the upper price points, our services are not being measured by other realtors' services. Instead, they're being measured by the benchmarks in service. And so think about the experience of using a personal shopper at Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom, or how about the level of service that you receive at a fine hotel? For example, I was staying at a Ritz-Carlton a few blocks away from Pike's Place Market in Seattle. And if any of you have ever been to Pike's Place, you know that the flowers are insane, right? And so, of course, I grabbed a bunch of flowers and I headed back to the hotel. And as I was walking through the lobby, the concierge stopped me and said, "May I send a vase up to your room?" And I was like, wow, absolutely. I didn't ask, they offered, right? They anticipated my needs. And so, how about the experience of buying or owning a fine automobile, right? So, Lexus is known for its outstanding service. They send you a brand new car to use while yours is in for service. Right now, of course, we know that there's also a trick to that because they'd like you to fall in love with that brand new car, right? But it's that level, right? It's not a typical loaner or that sort of situation, right? Can you imagine what it would be like to have a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, right? Those kind of service levels. That's what we're really talking about. So we had an opportunity recently on the podcast, A State of Mind, to interview Le Clé d'Or concierge, right? And so if you're not familiar with the famous gold crossed keys that signify a member of that society, it is an incredibly arduous process to earn, right? It is the benchmark standard. So this particular concierge now has gone beyond being an exclusive hotel concierge, and she's developed a private client travel concierge business that serves some of the world's wealthiest individuals, right? So it was a really extraordinary conversation about service expectations and about execution. And one of my key takeaways was her reference to the double platinum rule, giving people more than they knew they wanted, right? So I would really encourage you all to check out that particular episode because it really, really was a deep dive into her world that really was changed forever by that service level. So why would you go to the extra effort, right? She could have had a fine career as a regular concierge. You all could have a fine career in a moderate price point, but delivering superior service and seeing the impact that it makes, that's satisfaction, right? It's all about the results and it feels good. So let me give you a little background. So, fresh out of college, I was hired as part of the management training team charged with reopening a grand hotel in my hometown of St. Petersburg, right? It's the Vinoy, if any of you have heard of it, and this is a photograph of it. So, this hotel had been shuttered, right? Abandoned for more than 2 decades, and it was being rebuilt from the ground up, right? I went to work in a hard hat, and I was tasked with building the concierge department from scratch, right? Here's your empty space, build it. And so I thought about what a concierge would need to know in that environment, right? And they were shooting for 5 stars. So this was a really high expectation. And so I sat down with the yellow pages, right? Now that's dating me, but I went through the yellow pages A to Z and category by category, making lists of every possible service that a guest could possibly need, right? Of course, there were restaurants and the tourist attractions and shops, but I added things like hot air balloons and the best florist for somebody who was in the doghouse because they forgot something special, right? So, emergency medical services, on-site childcare, all those sorts of things. And so the list was really extensive. And I'm glad to say that they're still using my groundwork, right? 3 decades later. Now, that's the concept that I want to share with you as you think about building your own concierge services for your customers. And ironically, I am currently at this moment working with the new general manager of this same hotel, which is now an autograph collection property for her own personal real estate needs. So that's like a big full circle story for me. But I completely understand who she is as a client based on my experience, right? So the easiest way to relate concierge service to your real estate services is to start with how you work with an out of town buyer, right? Find out where they're staying, arrange for a welcome basket with area information, see if you can help with their transportation needs, right? Maybe arrange for a car service to pick them up from the airport, or for a really high-end client, you can direct them to private jet services or luxury car rentals. And so while they're in town, see if you can arrange for reservations at an exclusive restaurant or tickets to a sold out show, right? Like the kind of thing that you might think about. I once arranged for out of town clients who I knew were patrons of the arts. I arranged for them to get a behind the scenes tour of an exhibit at our Museum of Fine Arts that was not yet open to the public, right? Things like that that are just wow experiences. And so once they've made a purchase, right now you've sold them a property, but this is where you can continue to shine, right? So arrange for a white glove cleaning service so that when they get to their new home, it is absolutely spotless. So you could even arrange for their refrigerator to be stocked with essentials. That is a nice touch that I hear from some successful colleagues. And you're going to need to be prepared to have contacts for everything that they could possibly need. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So when you think about that out of town buyer, right? And then think about the lists of vendors that you typically have, right? I think all of us have them, right? You've got the, handyman, painters, roofers, stagers, plumbers, and moving companies, and all of that. But let's talk about how you can take that to the next level. So here's some suggestions on how to do that, right? So not just house painters, but who does custom faux painting, right? Who specializes in Venetian plaster, mosaic tile, or custom tile backsplashes in the kitchen or the pool area, right? Even portraiture, right, of the home or of the owner's family. That comes up now and again. You never know what kind of things you need to know for them. And then wine storage is something that we see at every price point, from full wine cellars to with tasting rooms. You know, you can hold a whole dinner party there at the top of the price range, all the way down to just the under counter wine fridge at the entry level in that price point. And so you need to know who in your marketplace will design and install custom wine storage for a new buyer. And if a home has sophisticated wine storage, they need to know who can service it if something goes wrong. Right? This is not an ordinary thing that we come into play. And of course, they need to know good local wine sources in order to keep their cellar stocked. So ask around at local wine shops or wine bars for recommendations on these types of vendors that you might encounter in that higher price point. So we know that you've got to have great handymen on your list, but you need more than that. So custom builders are really wonderful for a variety of reasons, right? So obviously they can help a customer do an addition or a remodel, but custom builders can also be a resource for pricing in the upper tier because the best relevant properties at the Institute, that's what we used to call comparables, but we refer to them as relevant properties. The best relevant properties for pricing may have never been in the MLS, right? It may be custom builders that have access to help you through a transaction when you don't have those easy resources. So landscape architects are also really important to know. Again, not just for the end service to a buyer, but how about if you need an illustration of what a seller's backyard could look like while you're marketing it? Architects and designers who specialize in certain styles should definitely be in your vendor list. You never know when somebody's going to call looking for a lot to build a particular type of home on, and your ability to connect them with the right architect or builder can be really fantastic. Also, those folks are really good to know in the event that you've got a unique listing that you're trying to market, right? You can reach out to them because you never know what they've got in their black book, right? In their database. And then whether your area's summer lasts 2 years, 2 months, or all year, right? We were talking about that, the difference in everybody's climate. And Randy was saying that she thought that 55 degrees in Las Vegas was swimming pool weather, right? So regardless of what your area is, outdoor kitchens and outdoor living space has never been more important, right? And so it's way beyond buying a grill at Home Depot, right? So think about who you might recommend for somebody to really be able to enhance their outdoor space. And then how about elevator service and maintenance? Right. This is something that I find in the upper tier that you've got elevators, and that's not a vendor pool that we typically have on what we're sharing with our clients. So that's something to add to your higher price point list. And then if we're thinking about relocation, right, whether it's local or interstate, um, for a more affluent client, that can be more than just a moving truck or a moving company. So think about moving companies who specialize in pianos or fine art, right? So I was with a group in Texas earlier this week, and one of them had a listing where part of the furnishings that were coming with the property was an autographed Elton John piano, right? That's a unique thing, right? And so if they ever needed to move that, they would want a specialized service, right? And so if someone has an art collection, they're more than likely going to need appraisal services in the area where they're moving. So get to know the folks at the auction houses or ask your insurance agents for recommendations. And did you know that there are insurance providers who can promise replacement of unique construction materials, right? Like flooring salvaged from a sunken Spanish galleon, or those that can insure art collections or wine collections. So make sure that those types of specialty vendors are definitely in your database. So of course, your vendor list also includes trusted professionals like accountants, appraisers, private bankers, and trust attorneys. So having ongoing relationships with these folks can not only bring you new customers, but it can give you just an absolute wealth of resources when your clients need them. So you might be asking yourself, how do you find all these people, right? One of the things that we say in the Institute is that you don't have to live the same lifestyle in order to be successful in the upper tier or in a higher price point. Instead, it's a matter of confidence and competence, right? And the more that you build your competencies, that confidence is going to come naturally, right? So if we aren't living in that same lifestyle, then we have to do a little bit of work to find these resources, right? It's not something that we're interacting with every day. So building that resource list can be a little overwhelming, right? So when I tackled the concierge department at the resort that I was talking about, you'll remember that I sat down with the yellow pages, right? So you've got the power of Google now, right? You can look anything up, start there, right? So then take advantage of networking events in your community, right? Or through your local board to meet other professionals that can be these resources for you. So go to kitchen showrooms, design centers, right? Introduce yourself and ask for a tour of the newest products, right? You'd be surprised at how easy that is to approach and how much you can learn in those environments, right? Ask your colleagues in the office, right? Or other brokers in your marketplace. Find people who are willing to share their resources with you. Join groups on uh, LinkedIn and Facebook where you can ask for recommendations, right? I see them being exchanged every day, resources for unique, specific needs. And how about other resources, right? Read magazines, right? Major ones like Dwell or Architectural Digest or local or regional publications that feature design and home trends. So online sources like Pinterest, right? It can not only be fun, it can be educational, right? And it also gives you an opportunity to share things out, right? If you're ever running a little dry on content for your social posts or a newsletter or something like that, the time that you spend learning about new amenities and things like that can really be leveraged into material that you can share, right? And positions you as somebody who's knowledgeable about that. And so go to home shows, right? You can find all the new trends and the features, and you can meet some of the providers that then become resources to you. And sign up for news feeds and blog subscriptions or online newsletters, right? Like WealthX or the Wall Street Journal has daily updates that you can subscribe to easily. So a good concierge anticipates the needs of their customer, right? Just what we were talking about, like the example that I gave of having flowers from Pike's Place Market. The most important skill is listening, right? Look for cues in the conversation that help you anticipate what they'll need before they ask. So, for example, I was talking to some customers who were relocating here from out of state, and they mentioned that they were concerned about their senior pet making the drive, right? And so I made sure that before they started their trip, that they had information on 24-hour veterinarian services, right? Think about things like that. Um, if they have children, right, they're likely going to want information about schools and family-friendly activities, things like that. Just a couple of days ago, we had our lighted boat parade here, which is a really special thing in this waterfront, right? And so I went through my list of everybody who had purchased a downtown condo in the last year and reached out to them and made sure that they knew that the lighted boat parade was going on and where the best spot to watch it from was. So those kinds of things, thinking about their interests, right? And matching that. And that goes back to the importance of having a really good database where you can keep track of people's interests, right? So in our database, we've got a note if people have dogs or cats or horses, or if they are golfers, sailors, you name it. If there's an interest that they have that they've expressed to us or that we've picked up on, then we have the opportunity whenever we come across something interesting or something that's happening to reach out and share that with them, right? That's a way to touch your sphere of influence that keeps you top of mind throughout the year, right? I think that that's a really important thing. So, like, if they're golfers, they need to know about the local courses, right? And other resources, things that are happening. If they're avid bicyclists, right? They want to know about good, safe places to ride and activities, right? So the opportunities to connect with people based on their interests is absolutely endless, right? And it's something that can keep you top of mind all year long, right? I like to say that our job isn't done when the transaction closes, and we actually produce a really nice oversized postcard that we send after each transaction, after each closing, when it's our buyers. And it actually says, our job's not done when the transaction closes. And it lists the kind of things that we can be resources for after the transaction. And that has been wildly successful. And it's amazing the things that people call and ask us for years after they've closed, right? And so that's what I'm talking about when we talk about create raving fans and referral opportunities. Now, talking about that closing experience, if I had a dollar for every real estate professional who said, "Oh, Tami, what's the best closing gift?" Right? We're always after closing gifts. And I think that one of the most valuable and appreciated gifts is a list of your favorite places and things to do, right? Whether somebody's moving from out of state or across town, um, they likely aren't familiar with what's around them, right? Share your favorite restaurants, right? Where do you go to all the time? And Where do you like to celebrate for a special occasion? Right? Where do you go for gourmet or organic items, right? Is there a great farmer's market or a boutique market, right? In my area, we have a really, really well-known farmer's market, and I often will give gift certificates that they can use at the market and share that with them, right? What's your favorite car detailing shop? Are there great dog groomers or pet sitters? We've got lots of resources for dogs here. People joke that the humans get to go along with the dogs, right? We've got dog bars, we've got dog parks, we've got all sorts of sidewalk cafe dining, right? So that's something that people really go a little crazy for. What do you like to do for fun, right? How about things to do on a rainy day? I remember this from my concierge days. So we had to keep a list of things for hotel guests to do on a rainy day, right? Because all your regular things, right? Busch Gardens, Disney, all those things are off the table. And so think about something like that as a gift that you give to folks that are moving to your town, right? So things to do when the weather isn't fantastic, right? So compiling and sharing those lists of your favorite local things is it's really a genuine, unique gift for your customers, right? And shows that you are going the extra mile, right? So your goal is to create raving fans for life, right? If you create the perception that you can help them find who or what they need anytime, then they're going to see you as a resource well beyond the culmination of the transaction, right? And even those value opportunities during your experience, right? So the general manager of the Vinoy, the first time that she and her husband got into my car to explore neighborhoods, right? And they brought their dog, right? That was a little interesting, right? So I learned a lot about their family environment there. But I pointed out to her that I had a little cooler that was stocked with water, sodas, juice. I had some snacks, salty, savory, right? Have you all ever been in a situation where somebody got car sick when they were driving with you? Right? You need to have everything from saltines to ginger ale, all of that. And and that in and of itself is a type of concierge service, right? Making that experience wonderful, having great information for them while you're touring. But she said to me, she said, "Oh, I'm fine. I don't need anything," right? Well, as we were touring and we spent most of the day together, driving around through different neighborhoods, and all of a sudden she started snacking, right? And she actually went through like all the snacks in the back seat, right? And so when we concluded our time together, she said, "I'm so glad that you had those snacks." She said, "But because I was like kind of getting anxious, right, looking at all these various different neighborhoods." And she said, "I had no idea that I needed a snack." And so even something that simple was something memorable and special, right? And so having paid attention to their likes and their interests gives you the opportunity to reach out to them after the sale when you see something that may be of interest to them, right? As I mentioned before, staying in touch is crucial, as we all know. And so these kind of concepts are what's going to result in loyal clients who will refer you to their sphere of influence, right? And that's what we want to do. Ultimately, it is about service, not sales, right? This is a huge takeaway in our industry, that so many are focused on the sales as opposed to the service aspect of it, right? And so ever since my early hotel days, I have understood the importance of the concierge and their resources. And as real estate professionals, we are the resources for our clients for absolutely everything when they move to a new town or even just across town. So think about what a good concierge means to you and try to emulate that in your business plan, right? In my mind, a good concierge has discretion and expertise and absolutely goes above and beyond, right? And above all, I want you to think about what you do as service, not as sales, right? Think about those examples that I've given. And so one of the ways that you can develop those levels of service, I want to talk a little bit about the Institute and the opportunities that you have coming up. And so we believe at the Institute that it's not just about a training program. It is much more than that, right? And so while our training is recognized as the industry's gold standard, we want to make sure that our members have access to unlimited resources and tools and networks, right? And so earning the designation can be a part of that. And so if you're interested, I'm hoping that you will join us at the luxury live stream that is coming up on January 16th. And if you want to snap that QR code that's on the screen there, that will take you to a special registration page because Moms in Real Estate members are getting $50 off. So use that QR code to sign up. And that is January 16th, and it's 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Time, right? It's a one-day version. But if that doesn't work for you on that particular day, we also have Luxury Online. That is a self-paced program, and so that can be flexible about your schedule. It's a total of 8 hours of on-demand education, and then we also have. For those of you that are already selling in the top 10% of your marketplace, there's an advanced version that's condensed down to 4 hours. So several different opportunities for that particular thing. And so the things that we think are important for you to have are good information about market trends, right? So we produce monthly luxury market reports for North America and for 150 different market areas so that you can be better versed in what's happening, right? We want you to be able to manage individuals and really execute transparent transactions, right? So those types of skills are among what we're looking for to provide for you. And then how to position yourself, right? Wherever you are in your career, right? As we talked about from the get-go, whether it's a price point or whether it's a phase in your career that you want to be more comfortable with, more confident, right? You're going to have the resources to do that. And then understanding the trends that influence those buying and selling behaviors in the upper tier really allows you to customize your marketing and your approach. And so if you choose to join us in the training, then you also are going to have access to 365 days of resources, right? That includes networking with tens of thousands of other agents that are looking to improve just like you, to provide those concierge services. And so this is one of the things I think that is unique about the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing is that depth of member benefits, right? It's not just getting a certificate. And the Institute network is something that I want to share with you. This is we were talking about some of the challenges with social media platforms that other people decide to change, right, Randy, on the algorithms for streaming and Zooming and all of that. So we created for for Institute members an online platform that is members only, and it's not tied to um, any other social media presence. So that is a safe space to ask questions and to learn how to provide better service and to build those concierge level skills. And so, for those of you that want to explore it, we believe that becoming a certified luxury home marketing specialist really gives you some opportunities to set yourself apart, right, and to earn that business and to really provide those concierge services. So if you're interested, there are some transaction requirements. We're going to share this presentation, so so you'll have access to that. And also on the Institute's website, there's some FAQs about how to qualify for the designation. And we have several different levels that can help you in your quest to provide those higher levels of service. So just a quick little commercial there for the Institute and the training, which we hope that you will join us for. But now we have time for questions. And so, Randy, I'm going to ask, how can people ask questions?
Yeah, so there's a
Right?
couple different ways. We do have quite a few people tuning in on the live stream. And side note, there's actually somebody whose husband works at that hotel, Tami.
Oh,
And
that's
so
fantastic.
they were like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing!" And my husband works there. So you can either drop it on the live stream. We are watching that, and then also, you can, if you're in the Zoom room, you can actually, turn your camera on and ask the question directly, or you can drop it in the chat. So wherever you want to, and it looks like, let's see, it looks like I also got a message on one as well.
Awesome.
So this one looks like it is just asking how they would kind of identify luxury based in their own market price point. So it looks like maybe they have a lower price point in a smaller market, more rural. So how would they actually begin to identify luxury?
Sure. And so some of those market areas become difficult when it talks when you're talking about qualifying thresholds. So for the Institute, we have a benchmark that is 500,000, right? There's so anything above 500,000 in a market that doesn't have those higher price points. For the designation purposes, for each market where the property is located, we consider essentially the 90th percentile, right? So an easy way is the top 10% of your market price is what we consider to be that threshold. And again, in a more rural area, something like that is a little harder to define. And so I think then you're talking about a level of quality. Right. So it's the
Mm,
difference between, a subdivision that, everything is exactly the standard and maybe it's custom properties. I hope
that's
that
really
answers
cool.
that.
Yeah, I think it totally does. And if it doesn't, she can drop a second part in. Okay, so
Absolutely.
we have another question. How did you first break into the luxury market?
Oh, I'm
That's
glad
kind of
to have that
fun.
question. Yeah, yeah. So, okay, so I had a little bit of a leg up, right? Because I joined my mother's real estate business, right?
Mm.
So she has been, so for my 22 years, she is 38 years, maybe,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So
Okay.
she had an established book of business, but I'm going to take that back to how she got there, right? And it was working in the same entry level price point, right? The bread and butter price point. And she provided such exceptional service to her clients that over time, as they got better jobs and raised, as they moved up in their price point, they came back to her. And
Mm.
so one case in point, I remember she sold a home once that was $100,000 to a young couple, and they both developed great careers. And so then she sold them another home and another home until I remember by the time I came in, so they were in a $1 million home, right? And then they got divorced. And
Mm.
interestingly, which doesn't happen very often, they both kept us, right?
Right,
So
right. Okay.
we continued to work with each of them and their new spouses, and then ultimately their parents and their children,
Oh
right?
my goodness, I love that.
And so I think that really translates back to what our topic is today, is providing that level of service and staying in touch that will grow your business and grow your pipeline to not only have future business, but also to naturally increase your price point.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's really powerful because, a lot of our agents are a little bit newer in the business. And I think it can be scary and intimidating to think about luxury. But when you think about just following the client along in their journey, and that has happened to me, right? Like I even have a success story where I say, I remember selling the daughter actually had to go in with the mom and dad. So the three of them together went in to buy their first home. And the reason it stands out to me is because simultaneously I had somebody else who was approved for a similar price point who just would not reset their expectations based off of what they could actually buy at the time. And I never forgot it because fast forward 5.5 years later, I had sold the house that the daughter and the parents bought together, and they had each bought separate houses. And then I had sold the parents' house, and then they had actually moved and relocated to Arizona and retired. And so they each had, moved up in price point from a very low price point to well into I think, and at the time our median was like 300, and they both ended up
Yeah,
in like $500,000-$600,000 houses, right? And that other one person is in my entire career still one of the very few people that never pulled the trigger. And it was so powerful to think about like that natural transition that happened for them, right? And so I think when we think about luxury, a lot of us as agents have that mental roadblock of either it's not my cup of tea, I'm not luxury or this or that. But when we start thinking about, I'm just going to serve my clients really, really well, and part of serving them is going to be to educate and empower them, and then
that's right.
naturally they're going to move up, and then I get to move up, right? Like I've had that happen, and it's a really fun experience. So Tami, I love that you shared that.
And I want to make another point too, because I think that a lot of people have misperceptions about who the wealthy are, right?
Mm,
So there is statistical data that the majority of the wealthy have earned that in their lifetime, right? They are new money, not
like
old
that.
money, right? And so I think that, that story of building with them, those folks built their wealth through hard work and,
Right.
and they're people just like us, right? And I think that's where there's a disconnect sometimes of people being hesitant to work in the luxury price point because they think that these people are like different in some way.
Right.
And in reality, they have a lot of the same values and the same desires just for good service. So I love
Right.
that. I
Well, and I
love it.
think people value experience, right? I often, and you have made me feel so much better, Tami, because often I'm like, I'm
Oh,
a Karen, I'm the worst Karen, I'm horrible. But I'm just for lack of better words, I'm very passionate about my experience. So even when I'm at an Airbnb, I'm like writing the review in my head where I'm like, how do I gently let them know? Like just, you have a beautiful pool and you have a beautiful hot tub just recently. But instead of 15 chairs that I don't need, how about we put a fire pit in? And how about we put the twinkle lights? But those little tiny things change the entire experience. And so everything I love that you said today really helps the individual agent to just think, is it just having a drink when I'm showing them, a property? It's practical, tangible, easy steps that an everyday agent can start to do to change the experience. And that's what I love. It's like you don't have to roll up in a Bentley to show them houses, but maybe think
that's
about
right.
what is that little thing you can do to change their experience.
It's funny you say that because there's a lot of conversations about do you need to drive an expensive car, right? That sort of thing. Do you need to wear brand name clothes or that sort of thing? And I think at the end of the day, it's about um, whatever car you drive needs to be clean, right, and well
Mhm.
serviced. I drive a Chevrolet Traverse. Right. And it is the best real estate car, right? Like they should hire me as a spokesperson because I am such a fan. This is my fourth one, right? I lease them
My goodness, you
and
are you
and
are a
and
fan.
right, but it is the most comfortable vehicle for taking buyer clients around. And one of my favorite things to do is to show neighborhoods and areas and that sort of thing. Not just here's a house that's for sale, but here's the kind of neighborhoods that we have to choose from. And sometimes people will get in, like fancy people, and they'll be like, what kind of car is this? This is really nice.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's Chevy, right? But
Yeah.
so it's just about it's about being well presented, clean, all those kinds of things.
Right.
not just about a look.
I love that. We had one more question come in, and
Okay.
this one is interesting. So this one says, how do you approach negotiations differently in a luxury transaction compared to traditional?
Ah, well, I'll tell you that we have an entire module on that
Mm,
in the training, right? But to cut to the chase, it is about being prepared and being confident in the value that you bring, right? And your ability to negotiate for and with those clients, right? So many of them are successful business people and they're used to negotiating, right? But they appreciate straightforward, thoughtful value, right? If you think about it, let's go back to the car experience, right? And so somebody who decides that they're going to buy a Bentley or a Lexus or what is making a conscious decision to spend more money on something that they see as having a value to them, right?
right.
And the same way in terms of negotiating with wealthy individuals, um, your value is what you're communicating, right? And sometimes that takes practice, right? And takes education and all those things. But really, what we talk about in the institute's training is kind of setting the groundwork for all of those um, misperceptions, all of those things that we think are challenging, right? Like one of the things that we talk about is how to qualify individuals in the upper
Mhm.
tier, right? Like a lot of the things that kind of make us all nervous just instinctively, right? There are ways that you can build your confidence in order to overcome those, right? And it's there's not a magic bullet. It's not there isn't a particular technique or thing. It's about really being well prepared, right? And really understanding your value and being able to communicate that.
Tammy, I not to hog it, I just had a thought and I wonder if the module goes over this is, part of the value is making it simplified for them and how you convey the information. I currently have a client. I don't think he's qualifies for luxury, but he is very busy. He's a police officer. He has a lot of things going on, and our my approach with him has just been a little bit different. It's just been very forward, very professional, high expectations. Like, hey, this are with his investment property, and I have just loved the transaction. It's been so interesting because I tend to have a lot of warm and fuzzy transactions, but I have just, and this one has a good, I mean, he's continually thanking me for my time and continually thanking me for going the extra mile. And so it has a really good relationship being built, but it's a very effective, efficient business, like relationship that's happening. And I can't help but think when you're talking about luxury, and I even told Kristen this a few minutes ago, this country bumpkin's never going to do luxury. But I have to say that, like, when I think about highly efficient people, I feel like that would be the luxury sector where it's like, we don't have to have a lot of fluff. Like, tell me what I need to know. Let's move this deal forward. Thank you for your time. And part of the value is going to be in how well you package it and how efficient you make it and easy you make it for them. Would I be kind of on the right point there as far as luxury, Tammy?
You would, but the bigger point that you made is that you took the time to really identify how that client wanted
Mm,
to be communicated with. And we do spend a lot of time in the training talking about how to understand people's different personality styles and that sort of thing to be able to more effectively communicate with them because it's a different level of service, right? I think about the woman with the dog, right? Like I need to pamper her dog in order to get her to make that business decision, right? But somebody else, like my mother, is a high D if you talk about the DISC personality,
right.
and so we have to shift how we communicate with people, and that's part of it, right? And you picked up, Randy, on that particular client and how that relationship needed to go in order to be effective.
Yeah, I love that. Well, it sounds like, basically no matter where an agent is, whether they're already somewhat in the luxury sector or whether they are brand new and just kind of aspiring to be there, that this is going to be a great opportunity for them to come alongside you guys and really learn. So thank you so much, Tami, for being here. You definitely have even changed some of my thought process.
Nice.
And so I love that. And I'm sure we'll probably have a few more questions, but for all of you tuning into our live stream, keep in mind, we'll also be sending a following email out that has the link and all the information. And we'll be putting, information out on this a couple more times before January. So you have not missed your opportunity, but make sure you jump in there and you do get it taken care of and get it on your calendar so that in 2025, you can raise that price point.
That's right. And I'm delighted to say that I'll be the trainer for that
Yay.
live stream in January.
Well, I think there's a small chance, Tami, you might have converted me. There's a small chance. I mean, when Randy goes luxury, I don't know what's happening in the real estate industry, but
Right. You know what? Randy just goes to a higher level of service, right?
well,
It's not about
that's
a
what I
price
love.
point. It's not about a
Yeah.
price point.
Well,
I'm
I
so
will
glad that
say
you
I've
had
seen
us
some of
with
these
you today.
ranches, and I'm excited about some of these bigger ranches, though, Tami. I'm like, I can sell a $3 million ranch. I'm happy with
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes,
Yeah,
you
you
can.
can.
so I love that.
Right?
Well, thank you, ladies, so much for always, supporting our moms in real estate. So many of us appreciate you, and we cannot wait to fill this class up for you.
Awesome. All right.
All right.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
guys. Have a blessed day. Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye, Tami. Bye,
Bye,
Jennifer.
everyone. Thank you. Yeah, have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.